Okay, here we are. So you have the slide, you have the presentation here near me. So click on that to see the slides. So see the sequence of the slides. Let's get on with our presentation. Wargaming 2.0. Here we go. Okay. Here we go. Welcome everybody. Wargame 2.0, playing with history in the digital age. When I was asked by Harold and the staff of the SDHistCon if I wanted to make an event, to set up an event for this virtual convention, well, I thought that this was the perfect time to speak to a broader public of something I am very interested in. Please take note, this myself, I am a content creator, wargame content creator. Some of you may know me for the regular space I have in some magazines and some websites, and also on the great channel by Dan Pancaldi, No Enemies Here, and we will speak about No Enemies Here. Also, I am an organizer of public events here in Italy, and I'm a regular contributor to some of the major wargaming events here in Italy. The SDHistCon area at Modena Play. If any one of you has been to Modena, it is the biggest Italian board game convention, and there is a dedicated area to historical gaming, that is the SDHistCon, and I am one of the contributors, one of the regular guests of the staff of SDHistCon. Also, I am an admin of the Italian Facebook group Ludo Storia, which is a group about historical gaming in all its forms. It is war games, historical themed Euro games, and historical themed role-playing games, miniature games, all kinds of historical games. And we recently had last week our own virtual convention, a bit like the SDHistCon. I have to confess, SDHistCon has been somewhat modeled together with the virtual BellottaCon of some years ago, but we will speak of all this. Okay, sorry, okay, here we are. And also, I am an academic author about war games and military history and the relationship between those two sectors. I'm a member of the Italian Military History Society. I'm a writer of military history books, and also regular contributor to some academic magazines and series, just like the Nuova Antologia Militare, the new military anthology, and also the author of several books and essays about wargaming in Italian, Le Guerre di Carta 2.0, Paper Wars 2.0, and other books. Now, soon there will be another book by myself about the relationship between historical research, historical studies, and historical simulation games, and that will be in English, and it will be published in a few months from now. Also, together with Jan Heinemann and Fred Serval, I am one of the curators of the anthology Euro War Games that is at the moment we are working on its publication. It will be an anthology by several authors about war games and simulation games. That is by myself, and of course, I'm also a wargamer. Now, why did I choose this particular topic, that is Wargaming 2.0? Because as you have seen from my own presentation, I consider myself a content creator and somewhat of a product of this new age of wargaming, because having been born in Italy and having seen, as my father was one of the first war game journalists, war game experts here in Italy in the 1980s, and at the end of the 1970s, and the beginning of the 1980s, I've seen and I've lived through a very important transition from conventional wargaming, from what we consider the normal in wargaming here in Europe, that is having war games only 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months after their publication in the US, or even 1 year after, and you had to order them. You had to know about them, and then you had also to order them, and it took months, and it was very expensive, and it was very difficult to have new information about war games, let alone errata, let alone war game magazines. And I've seen that total transition from that to this particular age, where I can have information and I can buy a war game essentially as soon as it is available on the market, as soon it has been conceived by the game designer and put on a pre-order. Or even for published war games, I see a war game, I like it, I see a video about a war game, I like it, and bam, with just one push of a button, in a few days that war game will be at my house, if that war game is available, of course. This is a total revolution also in the connection between gamers and publishers, gamers and designers, and between designers. It is a total evolution of the entire sector. That is why I decided to make this event and focus on this particular topic that is, I have to say, that is very dear to me. This presentation will be managed, will be held and divided into what I consider the 5 domains of gaming. Of course, this is a convention, but to set up our discourse or our dissertation about this peculiar topic, and these domains, these are where, and we will see all the transformations, all the evolutions of the digital age, of the social media age, into these 5 domains. That is, playing the games, designing the games, knowledge of the game, so knowing something. To play something, you need to be aware of it, and then communication. Nobody plays alone, even in solitaire, even when we are in this age, even when we are playing solitaire, we take a picture, we share it on social media, and immediately we are no longer playing solitaire. The sharing of the gaming session, it has become part of the gaming session itself, has become part of the gaming experience. Sometimes we play games just because we have seen someone else play it, and we are eager to share our experience with other people who played that game, and so also and this is something that gets into our own gaming flow. And the later domain is acquisition, that is, having those games. That is very important, of course. So let's begin with playing. Let's begin with the basic stuff. We are seeing now in this age of digital technologies, instant communications, and social media, we are going towards another form of gaming. As I said, these technologies have such a deep influence over our own experience and perception of games, our own wargaming practice, that we are going towards what we can consider, what we can define as augmented gaming, just like augmented reality. What is augmented gaming? This means that gaming is no longer limited to your physical components, to your physical session, to the physical space of your house, to the physical time you dedicate to the single gaming session. The wargaming flow, the gaming experience has expanded over this. Of course, all of these, is, of course, can be applied to all forms of gaming, but has had a very important, a very dramatic impact on wargaming and historical gaming, because those were the most classic forms of gaming, and in those classic forms of gaming we can observe the greater impact of these technologies. This augmentation expresses itself into three main sections, three ways. There is a functional augmentation, so the augmentation of the functions of the practical experience, of the practical, that is, of the components themselves of the game. We have, for example, here you have some example. You have promotional material that has video previews in it. Everyone who has seen a Kickstarter sees that there are promotional videos, previews, unboxings, etc. There is additional content that is mentioned in the manual. So you see the local load tactical system. It's a very important example of that, because you have links to forums over there. You have erratas, you have variants, you have additions, you have other content, and then there is forum and open sources reference, and also an immediate confrontation with other players of the same system, the same game. Then we have another kind of augmentation, is the experiential augmentation. This is an evolution that has impact over the experience, or the practical experience of the game. For example, in those in the rule books, in the scenario books, you have bibliographies. Of course, there were before bibliographies, but many of those bibliographies have direct links with material that is immediately available to you. You don't have to go around and look for this or that book. You have just a link, and if you have the PDF version of the rule book, you just click on the link and boom, here you are, the historical source. You have other contents like links towards alternate art for the games, painting guides if there are miniatures, and even here, as you see in Flashpoint South China Sea by Harold Buchanan, our host for this event. Also, even music playlists. This is a trend that I've seen more and more in recent games. Music playlists on Spotify or Amazon Music or other streaming service, and also Discord service. All those QR links, those are augmentation of the gaming experience. You can play with the suggested music as a background. And then the third form is human augmentation, because with this technology, we must never forget that these technologies have been conceived and been created to put human beings more in contact with each other. You have links to dedicated social media groups, remote gaming platforms, Vassal, Discord server. In many games you see, okay, here is the game, or on the website of the publisher, and here is the link to the Vassal module, to the tabletop simulator module, and also other links to organized play, and you have tournaments, you have conventions and special events, and so on. Another form, augmented gaming, is still physical gaming with something more attached. Then there is another form that is totally virtual, and is remote gaming. This had its origins in more primitive forms. It was, of course, played by mail and by conventional mail, and we all know that. But staying on the digital domain, the origins were, we have a website in Italy that is uplay.it, that made possible to play asynchronous Blue Marks and Wooden Ships and Iron Man, for example. You have web diplomacy. There are dedicated sites even today, active even today, with Java, and you have entire sessions of diplomacy. And then you have the true porting platforms, those platforms that take you completely inside the game. They make a virtual copy, or a copy of the game, bidimensional or even three-dimensional. In 3D, Vassal, Tabletop Simulator, Rally the Troops, Tabletopia, Board Game Arena, there are Sun Tzu, and etc, etc, etc. Another form of remote gaming is the digital versions in Steam, iOS, Android, and also independent software. Those are not transpositions of the game with major modifications. Those are the very game. Especially Lock and Load, for example, Lock and Load Tactical, the game that you find on Steam can tell you every single operations by the physical rule. The game follows the very same rules that you find in its physical component. This is a complete porting of the game. Also, we have other forms that are a bit hybrid of assisted gaming, dice rolling software, ACTS, that is a system to keep track of cards and card-driven games, and also Discord, where we are now, and that completely integrates into these gaming platforms. Other platforms that are not directly dedicated to remote gaming but are supportive of remote gaming are web and social media based opponent finders, Facebook groups, forums, and websites, and the rest. All of these keep us to the first dilemma, to the first question that we have: is remote gaming a form of physical gaming, or a totally different form of gaming by itself? Most of this is the question may be found in this. The answer may be found in this question: if the systems are rules enforcing or not rules enforcing. Vassal and Tabletop Simulator, if they have not some automations, except from some automations, they are not rules enforcing. If you make a wrong move for the rulebook, Vassal and TTS does not stop you to make that move, that illegal move. Rally the Troops, for example, is rules enforcing. So this is something that is still debated today in the community. And an hybrid form, even a more hybrid form, and it is something that I see more and more often today, is what I call virtual assisted gaming. That is, playing on these virtual platforms even by yourself. So it is no longer a remote game, a strict remote gaming, even solitaire games in virtual forms, but when you have also the physical components, a total integration between physical and virtual components. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Well, because the virtual copies of games have a host of advantages. The setup is instant, even for there are pre-setups, pre-elaborated setups, even for smaller scenarios. Save games. You can very easily stop a gaming session in half and then begin it again on another day, or another month, or another year. You have no more what I call feline problems. You can keep a game over your virtual gaming table as long as you like. It will be, there will be no cats, no wife, no children coming in and changing, wife or husband or someone coming in and putting away your game or messing with the components. The games are forever on the table, even if it is a virtual table. But also there is another great advantage that is more and more important: the end of time and space, limits and limitations. Here we have Mr. President. We all know Mr. President. It is a fantastic game, but it is a very engaging game in terms of time that you have to dedicate to it, and on space, on table space. There is, however, a virtual version of it, and in the latest module for Mr. President, GMT has specifically said that the next bunch of modifications and new materials for Mr. President is also compatible with virtual gaming, so you can play the game virtually, totally virtually, without having the physical components, or with some of the physical components, but you can play that just with that material, and a virtual copy of the game on Vessel. This means that there is a focus shifts in the gaming experience rather than on components management, on gaming management, on management of the game itself. This is very important for simulation purposes because it takes you away a lot of material, practical considerations. This is a very deep change in experience. You're more focused on the games. Also, it leads to the inclusion of more elaborate automated elements. Automated elements are small things. You already see that in tabletop and Vessel. You move a counter on one track and automatically the game moves another counter on another track. Those small things are very important for the gaming experience itself. Also if you stick with traditional playing, without going over Vasa, over Tabletop Simulator, well, Board Game Geek, Console World, and all the other support websites that we all know, Grognard.com, there are so many of them. Well, they have so much material that they really augment even the most physical and classical gaming experience, all completely physical experience. You can download rules, original or updated rules. You can pose rules questions. What once you had to send in an envelope to the US or whatever the publisher was based, then now you just send an email, or even better, a message on a forum on Board Game Geek, and almost instantly the publisher or the developer or the game designer or another player comes and answers that question. You can find FAQ and frequently asked questions and errata by the saying, I think it was by Mark Hammond, a game is never finished, it is just published. You can find counter scans. You lose a counter, you have a counter scans. You can check your counters. You can check to see if there are additional counters for other games that were published in a later game magazine, for example. And also you have lots of original additional content, rules, rights, variants, scenarios, other additional counters, solo modes, translations, which is very important, for example, for all non-English war games. I personally learned English thanks to Wargames because I read all those Wargames handbooks when I was a kid, but with my father. But one of the most frequent questions I get asked is there an Italian translation of this wargame that you keep talking about? Yes, there is. Just go on the publisher website or on Board Game Geek, for example, GMT, as a host of Italian translations of their rulebooks, and there you'll find everything translated. All of this is possible only thanks to the digital technologies, to the instant communication technologies. Second domain, design. The same old story, but now it is told in another way. I am speaking especially of the Living Campaign series in this segment. Why? Because we have the fork on the server now. We have a great experience, a great example that is the Levian Campaign server. There is a dedicated server or Discord server where gamers, designers, developers, everyone can come in and make their contribution to the series from wherever they are on the world. This means that thanks to digital technologies, thanks to communication technologies, we have an incredible growth of multinational teams, and access to direct language sources, an open exchange of ideas, different cultural heritages that come and confront with each other. If I make a game about the Reconquista, I can find Spanish gamers and designers and developers and illustrators that can give me a public access to all those data files or those historical documents, even in their own language. Even if I don't speak Spanish, well, I can have access in direct access to those documents, and they immediately enter into my own game design process. Even illustration is very important. Even the aesthetic of the game is fundamental part of the experience as well. Well, local illustrators can give you illustrations and art and suggestions that belong to the cultures that are involved into the game itself. And all of this, also this social game design, can lead even to other forms of confrontation also between completed designs. The concept jams held and organized by Fred Serval. You can immediately put together different games in competition between teams of people coming from all over the world and create other new fantastic games. Okay, just checking. Okay, technical issues. So please tell me if something is wrong. But since no one is speaking, I think that the slides are coming right. Still on the design, we have spoken about the Discord live campaign server. Well, the Discord live campaign server exists also thanks to the Tabletop Simulator revolution in game design. What is this revolution? Tabletop Simulator, I think all of you know that it is a software that makes completely a virtual reality copy of a game, and is very important when the game is finished, but it is even more important when the game is just at a prototype stage, because if you see during playtest, during a remotely organized playtest, well, I need another track, or I need another 10 counters of infantry here and there. You can just click and copy, and immediately your prototype has at the very moment you have these additional components that you need, and they are immediately shared, immediately distributed to your play testers, your play developers, your graphic department. It is impossible to underestimate the importance of these technologies in game design and on the tabletop simulator technology in game design. The playtests are easier. You can focus on additional content rather than just on mechanics. I've had the example of El Colapso, designed by my friend Daniel Hernandez Iniesta, and he contacted me and another friend, Paolo Carraro, via email, and we immediately, it is a game about the 30 Years' War. They said, okay, I want to have a couple of scenarios about the movements in Valtellina, this particular phase of the 30 Years' War in Italy that is not so well covered. Can you help me with your local sources? And we immediately put to work, and then we gave him this additional content, and he transformed that in game, and we had a constant confrontation over this. Something like that had happened on Inferno by Enrico Acerbi and Folco Ronche, and I had the pleasure of being one of the historical consultants. I made some small historical contributions here and there, and everything was organized and managed through the Discord server of the Living Campaign series, and we had a constant exchange of material, and then copies on Tabletop Simulator. We could play on them, and we could give on-the-spot feedback. Also, Tabletop Simulator is also important for promotional contents during the pre-order phase, and it is a phase that is ingrained already, still part of the design phase, because you can change small things here and there, and you can create promotional videos on games thanks to Tabletop Simulator. This is exactly what I did for my friend at the WBS, We Build Smiles, for Warfare Modern Tactical Combat, that is a war game about modern tactical combat, and we made a promotional video for their Kickstarter campaign. During that video, we saw maybe you can change these symbols on the dice, and they did, and the final product had this. And this is all thanks to all those technologies. So overall consequences: greater flexibility, a tendency towards experimentation because you are less limited by the physical components. So even psychologically, you are encouraged to further experimentation. This leads with a convergence with the Eurogames and other forms of board games because they already use that. You can get a broader public with a broader base of developers or playtesters that give you new ideas, but also you can contain the costs, the production costs, because you don't have to produce continually physical components, and also thanks to the immediate feedback. You can even, and this is a very peculiar problem, you can even have an easier cross-checking of the game material. As I said, no more Fort Capuzzo. Why? Because in every single wargame over North Africa, I've seen Italian spelling absolutely slaughtered. It is Fort Capuzzo with a double Z. And I know that this may not be a problem for non-Italian speakers, but when we see a game, even with with good spelling, with a good attention to sources, and sometimes these mistakes are that you give a different name to a division, so they are even much more serious games. Well, it is much better. Here I made an example because I've been also a contributor to the Warfighter Mediterranean modules, together with other friends, especially with another Italian friend, Paolo Busi, and so we were essentially enlisted as historical consultants, just with spelling, starting with the spelling needs, and then we expanded that also to historical sources, to scenarios, to campaigns, and so on, to other functional gaming content. All of this was held on Facebook with prototypes exchanged via email, etc. This leads essentially to better playtest, much more effective playtest processes, both quantitatively and qualitatively, more playtesting and better playtesting, much more effective playtesting. Third domain, I think that we are good with time. Yeah, knowledge, of course. Information, these are information technologies, and so it is much easier to have more information on these games, but it is much easier to create that information, not just to share it, because before this evolution, how could we create information about games? Game magazines, webzines, no web, we say before the digital revolution, the digital age, fanzines, conventions, just direct contact, direct physical contact. Now we have a host of new instruments with which every single gamer, every single individual, every single one of us can create original content on critical content and additional content on games. What are these methods? Of course, YouTube vlogs, reviews, interviews, analysis, live play. I have one of the most followed Italian YouTube channels dedicated to wargaming, that is vlog. And here I do review, interviews, analysis, live play, and so on and so on. Audio podcasts. And generally, the audio podcasts are even more analytical than video than vlogs and video content, not just reviews, but more analysis, more study of the game systems, and simulation in general. We have also Twitch, which is somewhat of an undiscovered country for wargaming, because now these are essentially dominated by computer gaming, computer wargames, but someone who's beginning to make some first gaming sessions of also wargames and historical games of Twitch, in most of the times in the virtualized forms of tabletop simulator. And then we have still magazines, webzines, and fanzines, but most of these are now web-based, or that content and the contact with the creators is managed through digital channels. Of course, we have the dear old blogs, that is websites. We have blogs by designers, by wargaming clubs, by players, and so on and so on. By one, I can mention some of the best ones, the one by Kevin Zacca, by Amabel Holland, and by Brian Train, but there are so many more game designers that create and share additional content over the web on their websites, and also a mix of all above. This very forest of information channel, sometimes it is a bit difficult to move inside that forest, and now there are channels that are aggregating channels like No Enemies Here, that the purpose is to help you navigate into all these other channel. No Enemies Here, everyone knows it, I think. It's the channel by Dan Pakal, which every single week makes a collection of what other wargaming channels make over their content, so you can immediately stay up to date. In Italy, we have created, I and some friends have created, a Discord server that is named Scipionet. That is the Discord server. When you subscribe to that server, you are immediately notified when one of the content creators that subscribe to the server automatically, when they make other content, we're immediately notified, and then you can navigate channel by channel. It is essentially a Netflix for wargaming. It is by our choice. It is in Italian language. It is dedicated to Italian wargaming channels, because it is a way to promote wargaming in Italy. Of course, it is possible to make other experience in all over the world. Essentially, the final effect is that it is a Netflix for wargamers. You come here and you see my channel. Okay, what has Riccardo published here? Blah 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 blah. And then you see you have, for example, Giacomo Scolaro Winter Quartering, that is his own channel. You have his room, and you see, okay, what has published Giacomo in the last months, and so on. Of course, all of these gets you some risk. There are some critical elements in all these host of information. It is, for example, it is not always easy to find a balance between quantity of information and quality of information. Sometimes I said that quantity is a quality of its own. There is a masterpiece syndrome. Sometimes we see every single game is the best game ever designed on this topic every single week. Every time a new game appears, or a new game, this is more frequent on general board gaming. The wargamers and wargaming channels tend to be much more analytical, much more accurate, but there is sometimes this tendency that the latest wargame is always the best game that has ever been designed over a single topic. And we must be careful not to fall on this trap, both as content creators and also as users of the content created by content creators, because sometimes they do not say that, but we are psychologically encouraged into believing, into accepting that as the best game ever published on this subject. On the other end of the spectrum, also quality as a quantity of its own. Credibility. This is a very, very important element to be saved, to be preserved. That is, and I say that as a content creator, I have to stay I don't know, but objective maybe it is too much, because it is almost impossible to be totally objective in communication, but I must keep being honest with my viewers. They must trust in me that even when they disagree with my own judgment, they have to think that my own judgment was at least honest, was sincere. And this is not so easy to say. For example, even when I get review copy, but this is something that I think essentially most, if not all, content creators, especially wargaming content creators, do. Even if I receive review copy, I tell my public, okay, this is a review copy. And also, even if it is a review copy, thanks to the publishers, but there are these and these and these problems. The best publishers, the most intelligent publisher, then come to me and thank me because, okay, thank you, we did not see that. Thanks to your video, now you can see how we can remedy to this issue. Also, another tendency that is very interesting, a tendency from influencing to de-influencing. That is, from instead of keeping telling people, okay, this is the best game, blah, 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 by objective analysis, we can tell people, this game is not for you. This other game may be best suited to your needs. If you are a beginner, I really love how Mark Herman said in the Pacific War, I'd say promotion, his first message is about the new edition of Pacific War. Guys, if you are looking for a light introductory war game over the Pacific theater, Pacific War is not the game for you. And I can tell that why, because I am the designer from that game. This is very honest, very and also very effective communication, and creates a bond of trust between who is creating the content, creating the communication, and who receives that communication. Also, a final risk, and we see that on Discord, but even on YouTube and even on Facebook, just by joking, I said that there is a gap greater than a folder gap. This is the digital divide. All those new information are shared on new technology, and not everybody is able to access that technology. So when we make that communication, the risk is that a portion of the public will not receive that communication, or will receive it. There is also a secondary digital divide. That is, people know how to use those channels, but not how to receive that communication. As we have seen, they may think that what I am reviewing is the best wargame ever created on the Battle of the Bulge, for example. Why? Because they are not accustomed to this kind of communication. This is something that must be taken into account. But of course, there are enormous benefits of the use of communication and digital technology, and the combination of all those technologies. Huge benefits waiting for us. These kind of technologies have given an enormous and incredible visibility of wargaming outside our small niche, even other channels and media. You may or may not believe that, but some elements of the communication of wargaming are much more innovative and much more effective than the communication of the usual communication of general board games. Of course, much of that communication of general board game communication is much more effective than other fields, but for example, there are depths in the spontaneous attitude. Really work in the wargaming communication and communications about war games and historical gaming really has made an effect even outside our small niche. Also, those technologies have led to a greater accessibility of the historical games simulation sector, the introduction of a new wargame language. We have now new wargame terms that have been created over media channels and now are more and more frequent in our hobbies. And our hobby is confronting itself with more mass market board games, with a greater exchange of information, as we've seen a greater tendency of a convergence. As in technology, there is a recognized trend of a technology convergence, where even in board games, we are seeing more and more of this trend toward convergence between different categories of games. This accessibility, this greater quantity of information also has led to a better in-depth analysis of games and also of studies about games. And it has also been an opportunity. It created countless opportunities for personal meetings and collaborations. Essentially, I can write a TV series, How I Met Fred Serval and Jan Heinemann, because I met them thanks to the No Enemies Here aggregating channel. I met those two guys because Dan Pancaldi had reviews of our content, and then we get in contact together, and now we're working on a book, on an anthology, on a collection of content over wargames. You see, communication creates aggregation that creates other communication. And all of this thanks to the digital and communication technology. Communication, here we are. Pardon the Back to the Future mention, but communication, who is communicating now? Essentially anyone. Anyone is communicating, is making new communication and creating content in wargames. Also, not just those who have YouTube channels or podcasts or website or blah, blah, blah. Designers are making communication. We have lots of designers here on the server today on the SDHistCon that are creating communication. They're showing their prototypes. I would have loved in the 1980s to have a video of Jim Dunnigan or the same Mark Herman or anyone else telling me, okay, I have this new game, it is called the Peloponnesian War, it is played this and this and this. Even in the 90s, in 1990s, the publishers are making communication. Lots of communication. The publishers are also resharing all those content creation made about channels made about their own games. The players are making communication, not just, as I said, not just those who have YouTube channels. I am a member of a group. I make a play. I play a game with my friend. I take photos and then I share that over my Facebook group. I am making communications. Also, when I'm asking, how do I move my division here? How do I use that CRT, etc., etc.? I'm creating other communication. I'm posing a question, gaining some answers, and those answers will be useful to other players that I will never know. And this instantly during the game session itself. We are up to a point when I have a doubt about the rules, I can during the gaming section, and you can immediately send a Facebook message to the game designer, to the very own guy who created this game, and say, okay, how do I, what do you mean with the second segment of the third one? Okay, this is the segment, this is the phase, this is the round, and I get my answer immediately, just on the spot, on the moment. This has never happened before. Just never happened. I never had the phone number of Al Nofi or John Young, for example. Reviewers are making communication. Event managers. It's a good day to set up a convention. Our dear Harold would say, everyone is making communication in the wargaming hobby today. And here we are. The symbol of all these is virtual convention. Virtual conventions are the greatest way with which we can see all those changes solidified over a single body. This means conventions that are held and followed only in virtual forms. Instant meeting, what are the benefits? Instant meeting opportunities, planned or not. I can now I can send a message to Folco, or for example, today I've been I followed Mark Hamill's preview of Rebel Fury, and I was there, and Mark said, "Oh, hi Ricardo, I remember you. Why don't you make some moves here and there?" And then I made some moves with Mark Hamill. It is great, it's incredible. I had I played these games when I was a kid. I would never imagine, I would have never dreamed of being able to make some moves with Mark Hamill on one of his games in virtual form, one of his games that is not even yet published. And we can have opportunities, we can exchange our experience, we can make more projects together, starting with these virtual conventions. Those virtual conventions mark the end of the concept of distance. Now I am speaking to you from Rome. You are all over the world. Today I was following the event of Film Redline about the new game about Alexander Gradek, The Fate of All, and I had someone who had left his own mic open and said, "Oh, I can't believe that! I can't believe I'm hearing some designer speaking from Italy. The designer was Vianello from Italy." And yes, I can't believe that. And now in Italy, I'm speaking to you. I don't even know where you are, but I'm speaking to you, and we are all instantly communication. There is no longer the concept of distance, is non-consequential. Also, cost considerations, the cost of setup, of organizing a convention, but also of arriving at a convention, physically coming to a convention. Conventions that are, those costs are absolutely nullified. On the other part, we have a lot of contents. The user contents of a normal convention, demos, previews, questions, answers, interviews, and seminars like this one. And those are the two stars of the show, seminars. I've seen from my experience, it is much easier not just to organize a seminar, a study, something different from a presentation on a preview on a virtual convention than on a physical convention. Why? Because, and I say, also the organizers of physical conventions say, yeah, your topic for this seminar is very interesting, but people won't be interested into following it. Why? Because they're paid for being there, they have limited time, they are tired, there are so many things to do over that day, so they don't have time for seminars in a gaming convention. They just want to play new games, they want to see new games. But in a virtual conventions, well, we have a much more effective time management, so we can spare some time even for seminars that are much more prominent, much more frequent. You can just see the schedule of the SDHistCon, and this means a change in content. Now technology is changing its content. You don't have just gaming content, you have also study, in-depth analysis of gaming, such as this very seminar you're following, you're hearing now. Also, once again, opportunities for contacts, for personal communications, and also the expansion of management support platforms like tabletop events that has supported the organization of this convention. I told you about the convention that we had a week ago. This is a very telling example. The Virtual Ludostoricon 2024. Ludostoria is the Facebook Italian group about historical gaming in all its forms, and we are active since January 15th, 2023, so just a bit more than a year. 1 year after, on January 21st, 2024, we were able to set up a virtual convention, following the example of the BellottaCon, the Spanish BellottaCon of 2021, if I remember, 2020, and another virtual convention by the Italian Wargaming Federation, and also the SDHistCon, the past HistCons. Here are some numbers. We had 8 hours of convention time, 15 conference guests, resulting in more than 7 hours of content, 20 single rooms with meetings, events, demos, question and answers, 6 publishers, not just game designers, 6 professional publishers with their own rooms, and other 4 present as guests at other events, 30 game designers present at the convention with various rules, 586 hours of total video and audio activity. Yes, we talked a lot. We're Italians, we speak a lot. Also, we had some international friends and guests. 145 users connected for more than an hour on a single event. 90 hours connected for more than 3 consecutive hours. 215 peak users connected in a single moment. We had a peak of 215 users connected in a single moment of the convention. 343 total subscribers to the server connected in various moments during the day. These numbers may seem a bit small, but of course, take into account that we are speaking about an Italian convention that was mostly aimed at and promoted to the Italian public. We had some game designers, we had Ian Brody, we had Wouter Schüttetten, and Daniel Hernandez Iniesta, and the guys from New Cold War, other international guests, of course, but it was mostly an Italian-based convention. The total cost of this all, 10 euros. I think $12. Or one pizza to Fabio Raschini. I'm still in debt of one pizza to him because he's our Discord, our tech guy, our Discord expert, because we had to boost the server. We had so many people, we had to boost the server on the fly, and he paid for it with just 10 euros. And that's it. This is the entire cost of the convention. Of course, there has been a human work times, much communication, but we had essentially no economic costs to make that convention. The fallout effects are, of course, we are coming out of the Plato's Cave. We will be essentially, this encourages to get out of the niche, the handle niches. As we said, a change also in context, like cuius regio, eius religio, cuius media, eius contentus, I say in Latin. To every media, its contents, so even a change of content. New aggregating models. Physical clubs, yes, they're still important, but they are now, in parallel, they are flanked by, accompanied by social media groups. Tighter connections between different national wargaming communities. We have made contact with Bellota, with guys in Germany, with guys in France. There is the possibility of creating aggregated events over different nations, such as this one, effectively, a confrontation with diversified cultural histories and heritages. New forms, this also encourages, as we have said many times, new forms of wargaming and historical gaming, and giving us a broader and more comprehensive vision of the hobby, because we are essentially multiplying the occasions for confrontation, for immediate and free confrontation. The last point may seem a bit controversial, the gatekeeping hidden virtues. Of course, this is the total opposite from gatekeeping. However, we must be aware, as we have said, there are risks in all this, that we must maintain some reference points, not considering them as not by themselves, but as starting points to give a better communication, give a better orientation of the communication, respecting all the different forms of approach to wargaming, but helping people find their own content, that is. This is a virtual form of gatekeeping. This means not shutting the doors, but telling people, okay, maybe you are more interested in these, but please remember that there is also this and that, so giving them well-documented alternatives. Last point, acquisition. Money. New media, new channels, new ways to get games, and this is as important as all the others because it is also influencing how the games are designed, created, published, and distributed. The phenomenon of Kickstarter, P500, the print and play. Now, I live in Italy, and if I want a game that is hard to import, there are many taxes, it's very expensive, I can get for a fraction of the cost its print and play form. Wargame Vault, White Dog Games, for example, is doing this. Ole Spiele is publishing regularly the games over Wargame Vault. There is also the form of print on demand with Wouter Schüttetten in the author, the game designer of Dreaded Flags, and Mike Lambo's games. Those are made available on Amazon. I can just have it with a click. They are printed in Italy, and in the next day I can have it by my door. The secondary market is much more accessible, I can find that hard to find copy on eBay, on Facebook, on Board Game Geek, and have it on my door. Also, there are the Steam portings. I can have digital versions of the game, and I also have dedicated websites on Abandonware, that is, titles whose rights are expired, or versions, old versions that are however reachable. Napoleon at Waterloo, some of the SPI catalogs, and Ancients, for example, are good examples of this. The consequences of these new forms of acquisition that are digital-based communication, communication-based, the Amazon effect. I see a game, a video about a game, nice, or a Facebook post about a game, nice, I want to have it, oh, here is my online store, in a few minutes I can order that, and the next day it is at my house. And this leads to the Insta-buy, the smog syndrome, the obsessive collection of everything. That is somewhat facilitated by the possibility of immediate price confrontation. I can see, oh, here he has one on, I can save $5 over this $100 purchase. However, this leads to other side effects, like the forced acquisition effect. Many wargames, especially here in Europe, or not just here, are available just for a few weeks, so sometimes I'm forced at buying a wargame because I know that in a month that wargame will no longer be available, but as I am forced, even my other fellow wargamers are, and so a vicious circle is created. Some games are available only on Kickstarter exclusives, and they're not even available on retails. So those alternative acquisition channels become exclusive acquisition channels with all the other effects that we may well imagine. We have also the effect of unwilling purchases. Sometimes we make a pre-order and just forget it. What did I order that game about Waterloo if I don't even like Napoleonic wargaming? What was I thinking about? And of course, the user consumerism issues. Do we really need another bulge game in the house? Every wargaming will say yes, but will you really play it? Is it passion? Is it dedication to historical gaming, or just consumerism? Everyone has his or her own answer. In conclusion, what's up, Doc? What's happening? Well, everything I told you, and I like to call that the Ozymandias effect, and if you have read the Watchmen comic, you understand what I'm saying about. It's not something that is happening. It's not something that will happen from here in a few years. It has already happened. All of these changes are currently shaping wargaming. Wargaming now is dominated by those changes. All of these changes are interdependent, and change in acquisition as an effect of a design, of a communication. All those domains are constantly interdependent. All these changes, this is the most restraining part, are absolutely compatible with classical wargaming. And all these changes will not supersede traditional wargaming, even if you just want to have your wargames and don't bother seeing anything of this at all. Essentially, those changes will be essentially invisible to you. They will just facilitate your access to new wargames and even to old traditional wargames. But all of these changes, if used correctly, if well understood, are powerful enablers for wargaming. They're essentially the base of what we now call a new golden age, a renaissance of wargaming, is based upon. Without those changes, we will literally not even speaking here now. And this means that there are great opportunity, of course, something also a great dilemma, something to manage, to control, but there are very great opportunity and a great enabling factor. All of these changes already are the new wargaming. And finally, the game has changed, but it stayed the same. These are the new rules. And since we are wargamers, we should be more than ready to understand, apply, and use those new rules to reach our most essential victory conditions. The growth of our hobby in quantity of titles, publishers, approaches, diversified topics, and gamers and players, and quality. The confrontation with different sources, different cultural heritages, different forms of gaming, in general, a better form of wargaming. Thanks. This has been my exposition. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Okay.
Thanks, Ricardo. Show you on No Enemies Here.
Oh yeah. Thank you very much.
No, actually, ironically, as you're doing your thing, I'm building a vassal mod for White Dog Games. So.
That's it. And I'm a very frequent user of White Dog vassal modules, actually.
Oh, well then, hopefully they aren't too bad because I'm the one who makes them. So.
Oh, thank you. You see, another meeting opportunity.
There you go. But yeah, keep pumping it out on No Enemies Here. I enjoy your bits when you do it there. So appreciate the presentation too, just reinforcing what I've already noticed. I have my own YouTube channel and I only play online via Vassal too. So, I'm an IT pro, so I'm comfortable with computers, but you made excellent points.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. Right. So enjoy your convention. Thanks for having stayed here and see you around. And once again, thanks for your work.
Yep. See you later.
Bye. Bye.